Hello, my dear students. Today we shall look into the topic on the Comptroller and Auditor General. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India is the apex authority responsible for external and internal audits of the expenses of the national and state governments. It is popularly known as the CAG of India. In this video, we shall discuss in brief about the office of the CAG and its functions. On 7th August 2020, Girish Chandra Murmu has been appointed as the new Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Earlier, he was the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory. Before him, Raziya Parvin assumed the CAG office on 25th September 2017. So after this brief introduction, we shall look into how did this CAG office come into being. Since India being a democratic country, it is by the people, of the people and for the people. The reason for the establishment of this office is to answer the people who are considered to be the stakeholders of the nation, to run the government. So each and every penny from the people is accountable. So this work is being done by the Comptroller and Auditor General office. The office of the Accountant General was established in 1858 by the British East India Company, and in the year 1860 Sir Edward Drummond was appointed as the first Auditor General. In 1866, the position was renamed as Comptroller General of Accounts, and in 1884 it was redesignated as Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Under the Government of India Act of 1919, the Auditor General became the independent of the government as statutory backing was given for that position. Further, the Government of India Act of 1935 strengthened the position of the Auditor General by providing for provincial auditors general in a federal setup. The Act also described the appointment and service procedures and gave a brief overview of the duties of the Auditor General of India. The Accounts and Audits Order of 1936 provided detailed accounting and auditing functions of the Auditor General. This arrangement remained unchanged until India's independence in 1947. And after independence, Article 148 of the 1949 Indian Constitution provided for the establishment of a Comptroller and Auditor General to be appointed by the President of India. And CAG jurisdiction was extended to Jammu and Kashmir in 1958 as well. So how this Comptroller and Auditor General of India has been appointed? It has got its constitutional provisions. Part 5 of the Indian Constitution describes the role and responsibilities of this office. The Comptroller and Auditor General is one of the few officers directly appointed by the President of India. Article 148, 149, 150 and 151 of the Constitution describes the functions and powers of this office. So you can look over there, the appointment, the duties and powers, accounts and the reports. So you have to remember all these 4 articles along with the part 5 of the Constitution. Article 279 establishes the calculation of the net proceeds is ascertained and certified by the CAG, whose certificate is final. According to the 3rd schedule of Section 4, prescribes the form of oath of affirmation be made by the judges of the Supreme Court and the CAG at the time of assumption of office. According to the 6th schedule, the accounts of the district council or regional council should be kept in such form as CAG with the approval of the President prescribes. Accounts are audited in such a manner and shall be submitted to the governor, who shall cause them to be laid before the council. Coming into the powers of the CAG, Article 148 of the Constitution establishes the authority of this office. It states the following points in relation to the establishment and powers. So, the Comptroller and Auditor General appointed by the President of India and can be removed from office only in the manner and on the grounds that a judge of the Supreme Court is removed. The person appointed to this office should take an oath of office before the President. The salary, service conditions, pension, age of retirement are determined by the Parliament, and the service conditions and salary will not be modified to the disadvantage of the incumbent during their tenure. The CAG is not eligible for any further office after the end of their tenure, either in the Government of India or any state government. The powers and functions of CAG are subject to the provisions of the Constitution. The rules governing these would be prescribed by the President in consultation with the incumbent. The expenses on the administration of this office, including all allowances, salaries, and pensions, would be charged to the Consolidated Fund of India. The incumbent is appointed for a period of 6 years or until attaining the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. So, the major powers of the CAG. The CAG or his office staff can inspect any office of the organizations. They can scrutinize the transactions of the government and question the administration regarding various transactions. After scrutinizing the transactions, the CAG may withdraw his objections, or if he finds them serious, he may incorporate them in his report, which is submitted to the Parliament as well. CAG is endowed with full access to all the financial records, including the books, papers, and documents. CAG has also got the right to call for information made by the Government of India in 1936 in order to enforce the Act of 1935. The present provision of according him free access to files and information is a practice continuing from the past. So it has been represented in a diagrammatic form, the duties and powers of CAG. So you can understand very well the CAG has got the compilation of accounts of union and states, prepare and submits the account, auditing, audit of bodies or authorities, auditing the government companies, furnishing the reports to the concerned governments, audit of accounts of certain authorities, and power to make rules and regulations. So the maximum power and the responsibility lies in the office of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. The duties of the CAG are, according to Article 149, to perform the duties of the accounts of the Union of India and the states. Article 150 prescribes with the approval of the President the form in which the account of the Union and states ought to be kept. Article 151, the CAG report to the President or to the governors of the state on the accounts of the Union or state. Due to the separation of accounts and audit in 1976, the CAG's duty is the auditing of accounts, and since 1976 onwards, accounting is being done by the various departments themselves with the help of the Indian Civil Accounts Service. So looking into the role of the CAG in India, the office of the CAG is responsible to and is an agent of the Parliament and conducts the audits of expenditure on its behalf. The CAG has to ascertain whether money shown in the accounts as having been disbursed was legally available for and applicable to service to which they have been applied or charged. The office can perform a proprietary audit. The Secret Service expenditure is a limitation on the auditing role of the CAG. In this regard, the CAG cannot call for particulars of expenditure incurred by the executive agencies, but it has to accept a certificate from the competent administrative authority that the expenditure has been so incurred under his authority. So the powers of CAG in India are innumerable. According to the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Duties, Powers and Conditions of Service Act of 1971, all receipts and expenditure from the Consolidated Fund of India is being audited by CAG. All transactions relating to the contingency funds and public accounts, all trading, manufacturing, profit and loss accounts and balance sheets, all stores and stock of all government offices or departments, accounts of all government companies set up under the Indian Companies Act of 1956, accounts of all central government corporations whose acts provide for audit by the CAG, accounts of all authorities and bodies substantially funded from the Consolidated Fund, accounts of any authority even though not substantially funded by the government at either the request of the governor or president or at the CAG's own initiative. So this is the structure of the CAG office. The Indian Audit and Accounts Department, headed by the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, is assisted by 5 Deputy Comptroller and Auditors General of India. One of the deputies is also the chairman of the audit board. Below the Deputy CAG are 4 additional Deputy Comptroller and Auditors General of India. The hierarchy in this office comprises of CAG, Deputy CAG, Additional Deputy CAG, Directors General, principal directors, directors or deputy directors. And you have to note over here, the field office formations are headed by officers of the designation of DG, PAG, PD and AG, and they report to the DAI and ADAI concerned. And this is the work of the CAG office, which is being represented in the diagrammatic form. It supports the parliamentary accountability. The annual audit of government departments is being done by CAG office. It reports on the accounts of the public services. It issues credits on the exchequer. It audits the public bodies annually. It engages with public bodies, they audit, and it also provides the special reports to the parliament. So certain changes happened in the CAG office. In 1971, the central government enacted the Comptroller and Auditor General Duties, Powers and Conditions of Service Act of 1971, which made the CAG responsible for both accounting and auditing duties for central and state governments. In 1976, CAG was relieved from accounting functions, and the CAG has undergone rapid computerization and modernization since the 1990s, and pervasive nature of Indian corruption has kept CAG vigilant, and it has audited and investigated some of the worst and most controversial corruption scandals in Indian history. So this is all about the CAG office. Coming to the conclusion, Article 151 of the Constitution says the reports of the CAG relating to the accounts of the Union shall be submitted to the President, who shall cause them to be laid before each House of the Parliament. And you have to note over here, in India, CAG does not audit the Reserve Bank of India. CAG conducts the audit of other financial sector regulators like SEBI, IRDA and PFRDA, but does not conduct performance audits. Thus, the CAG is an authority established by the Constitution of India and is independent from the government's influence. It has been formed to keep a check on government revenues and expenditure with the objective of the people's welfare. The CAG is appointed by the President and can only be removed from office in like manner and on like grounds as a judge of the Supreme Court. And this shows the perfect responsibility, the duties and powers of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next session with another important topic.